going on? Good looking?
No, not much. How you doing?
Fantastic. No internet at the school.
Why is that?
Comcast is down in our entire area.
It looks really gloomy there.
Oh, dude, it is so ugly here. And it's just everything's covered in salt right now. Ugh.
That
Did I
should
ever
just be
mention I
really
love
fun.
Florida?
What's that?
I love I love Florida. This is
Well,
why.
yeah, Florida's much better than that right now. It's cold here, and it's been wet all day long, so that makes it feel even colder. But I would still take what I got over what you got.
Yes. Yes. What are you guys at, like 50 degrees?
No, it actually got into the upper 20s last night because we're in the
Whoa.
panhandle, so we actually do get a little bit of cold weather.
Yeah, you get a little lick here and there.
Yeah. Nothing like you guys though.
Yeah, all my ACF people are over in St. Petersburg. No, where the hell are we? Uh
Sarasota?
no. Well, we're meeting in Sarasota. What was that town you said you found your little trophy showed up in? St. Augustine. That's the
Oh yeah, St.
national
Augustine. Yeah,
office.
my
St.
my
Augustine.
skeleton
Yep.
dude. Yeah.
Yeah, that's our national office. So yeah, and then tonight we have the Michigan Chef de Cuisine annual Chef of the Year banquet where awards are handed out. That I was told I needed to go to um, earlier, like a couple days ago.
Right.
Uh, so good times. I'm going now.
Well, I guess it's a good thing. At least you're able to go and rub shoulders with the other fancy people.
Yeah, it's nice to see my friends. I'm just lazy. I'm old and lazy.
Yeah. I know the feeling. Melissa was telling me we were passing somebody that was being kind of rude, and I was saying he's old and grumpy, and she goes, "Well, just like you." And I said, "I'm not old or grumpy." But I think she's right. I'm both.
I'm both. I'm totally both.
Yeah. Sadly, the more I deal with people, the more grumpy I seem to
Now I get
be.
why old people are grumpy.
We've
Now I
seen
get why old
everything.
people are grumpy. Yeah.
We've seen it all.
Yeah.
All right. What we'll do is we'll just kind of edit this together into something that's similar to a podcast.
Okay.
I made up a little logo, had AI do it for me, so it's not like I made it up,
Nice.
but it looks okay. I mean, it'll definitely get the point across. And when it comes to saving money and saving time, AI is our friend.
AI is a wonderful tool.
It is a tool. It definitely is a tool.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, it's really great when you're trying to draw up agreements and you can be like this point, this point, this point, this point. I need
Yeah.
an agreement with these points on it. And then it will shove in a couple extra and you're like, oh, that's a good point.
Yeah.
I'm gonna keep that.
I like when you're able to take AI and it gives you a big long answer and you go, well, what about this and what about this? And it acts like the perfect employee. It says, "You're right. Let me fix that for you," and then it does it.
Yeah, you know what? AI is like asking a politician a question. It'll give you an answer with absolutely no meat in it. And
Yep,
if you can throw a couple steaks in there, you're good to go.
yep. That's a
Yep.
good way of putting it. That's exactly what AI is like. It's definitely politician trained. That's for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is for sure.
Well, I was raised in a middle class family. Okay, I asked you about,
Oh, that's too funny. And
you
that
know.
is about the truth, though.
Yeah.
I did something with AI a couple of months ago. I was trying to get it to explain to me how they determine the air conditioning capacity of air movement and that kind of thing for basically a room, but I was wanting it to lead into, the dimensions of a food truck. And it gave me a lot of information I knew was wrong. So I called it out on it. I said, that's not why, that's not right. This formula is missing, and whatever it was missing. And it would say, you're correct. Let me readjust my answer. And it would readjust the answer and throw in something else that was wrong. Like, okay,
Ah,
drop the whiskey and let's answer this all correctly and don't add
nice.
new fantasies as we go. So I don't mind when it does something that's wrong when I can recognize it's wrong, but it makes me worry when I'm not familiar with what it's trying to talk about and I don't know whether it's right or wrong.
Yes. Yes.
That is scary. All right, so we said today's title was going to be maximizing profit through safe food practices. We're going to,
Yes.
we're going to make that the first episode of our podcast that's called Are You Making Enough Money? And I just love that name. I'm glad you came up with that name.
Thanks. It's a question that runs through my head every day of my life. Am I making enough money?
And is that usually when you're in the weeds at lunchtime
Uh, no, it's just every day.
every day?
Every day. When I wake up, I think, am I going to be making enough money today? When I go to sleep, I think to myself, did I make enough money today?
And then you look at your checkbook and you know for sure.
Yeah. Hopefully the answer is yes at that point.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. All right, so let's introduce ourselves so people know who the heck they're listening to. My name is Bill Moore. I'm the executive director of the National Street Food Vendors Association, and you are.
My name is Matt Schellig. I am the culinary director at a small culinary school in Michigan called Dorsey College. And I'm also the culinary director for an incubator kitchen located known as Oakland Hope or Hope's Kitchen.
Hope's Kitchen. Very cool. All right. So today we're going to be talking about, and I already forgot the title, maximizing profit through safe food practices.
That
And
one.
those two things have to go hand in hand. As a business owner, you got to maximize your profits, but you also have to be very mindful of doing things that are food safe. So I got
Well,
some questions here. You want me to jump into those or you want to add something in real quick?
I want to throw a little something in there. I mean, anything that you do with a business, if you want to stay around, it has to be sustainable, right?
Absolutely.
So when it comes to food safety, when you're not getting your guests sick or killing them, that's sustainable because then they are more likely to come back.
They are more likely to come back if you haven't made them sick or killed them off.
And then
It,
there's another piece to that. And you and I were talking about this the other day, Bill. You were talking about the perception. Like if you park your truck in a bad spot, then all of a sudden the perception of your truck is that it's a bad truck. And that goes for your facilities. If people look around and they see it dirty, they think you're dirty. They think your food's dirty. If they look around and they can visibly tell that it's clean and well maintained, then that gives a certain level of comfort to the food and the service as well. And I think people do that normally when you go into a restaurant, go to the bathroom. If the bathroom's clean, you feel a whole lot better about what's coming out of that kitchen.
absolutely. As a food truck owner, you don't have the opportunity for people to look at a bathroom or to even walk through the dining room as they're on the way up to the counter to place an order or if they're going to be seated in the dining room. They have all kinds of things to look at to provide evidence to their brain. Is this a safe and clean place to eat? Only thing the food truck owner has is where they park and the exterior of the food truck. And if those two things don't project that image of sanitation, people are going to pass you right by no matter how good your food is because they don't trust where you're sitting and what the exterior of your food truck looks like.
Well, and this is one of those situations where perception is reality. I mean, all you do is get a brief moment to perceive the business. And if you perceive that it's dirty, it is dirty, and you're not staying around.
Absolutely. And there's a lot of things that we can casually observe as we step up to have our order taken.
Yep.
I'm tall enough to see in the window, but even shorter people that, can't actually see the floor can see somebody whether they're wearing gloves or not. If their hair's pulled back, they're wearing a hat, some of the obvious things that some food truck owners don't really pay attention to. How about nail polish?
Oh, if you are going to serve somebody and they're going to put that into their mouth, or your finger is going to go into their mouth, put that in their mouth, you better have impeccably manicured, cleaned hands. And when I say manicured, I'm talking about your nails are the right length. Nail that will want to cut into food, or maybe pick up a little nugget here or a little nugget there. Um, Fingernails are so important. I mean, the number one foodborne illness that is transmitted in the United States, and I think it's something like 90% of all foodborne illness cases fall under norovirus.
Oh,
The most
absolutely.
common, yeah, and the most common way to give it to somebody is through the fecal oral route. Think about this name: fecal oral, poop and mouth in the same sentence. Yep.
I'm getting hungry already.
Oh, yeah. So when you have painted fingernails, you can't see the dirt that's actually building up underneath them. Which, by the way, what we're talking about, that you will end up infecting food with a virus like norovirus, would happen way before the fingers are looking black underneath the nails and all
Oh, yeah.
gross. And yeah, that is a deal breaker for me. Dirty fingernails, and that's really just shaking somebody's hand, saying hello. I see dirty fingernails, and I'm like, oh, oh,
Yeah, that's one of the
can't
side
go.
effects of working in food service for so long. You notice things and get repulsed by things that other people casually don't ever notice.
Yeah, I had a boss that taught me a long time ago. When you walk into a restaurant, look up, look at the lights, and then once you look up, look down over by the corner, over by the door. He said those two things right there will be a litmus test to the rest of the operation.
Oh, absolutely. Any detail like that at all. I mean,
Yeah.
you go into a lot of modern restaurants now, the architects are going for that open look. So you'll see ductwork and beams and stuff that are no longer covered with acoustic tile. It's like, how many surfaces can you possibly create for this food truck or this food business, rather, to have to dust? Let's put 10,000 surfaces for dust to collect on.
That one right there, dust, man. Dust is a battle, but we're talking about, and you know what? That is a food safety thing as well.
Absolutely.
Dust, and you know, nobody ever thinks to wipe the top of their ticket line. You know, the ticket holder.
Right. The ticket rail. Yeah.
I have, yeah, I have seen more disgusting ticket rails. I've seen disgusting ticket rails attached to a clean shelf and been like, "Hey, you guys missed like an inch."
Yeah. Well, it's the same thing with the
Yeah,
KDS system too. Even if they have a screen up there, those greasy hands touching that screen or touching the bump bar, whichever one they have.
yeah.
Those things need to be wiped down because that hand, once it touches it, where's it going? Probably right back to touching food.
And you know what's actually a great way to keep that in focus? Those little sidebar items that we've become blind to, they almost become like wallpaper to us.
Right.
Go to somebody else's house and see all those things, and then come back to your own house, and all of a sudden they will start jumping out of the wall if you're
That's
not doing them.
that's a good piece of advice. We always, Melissa and I have always eaten at, competing restaurants, competing food trucks. And it's not necessarily to see what we do better than everybody else. It's really to see what they're doing that could be better than what we're doing. So we want to learn
Absolutely.
and taste their food and that kind of thing. But
Yeah.
as the observer in both of us, we're looking inside that window going, maybe not. Maybe we don't want to try this food. And then as soon
So,
as we get back to our food truck, oh, well, crap, we saw the same thing that we were just not wanting to eat at that dude's food truck is in ours. So now, Bill's taking stuff apart and cleaning it and rearranging and making it look good. So you're right. Sometimes you don't observe your own messes until you see the same mess somewhere else.
or the lack of mess somewhere else too, right? Like
Right.
if you've got a nice dust line on the ticket rail and you go somewhere else and you just happen to notice and the ticket rail's clean and then you see yours and you're like, oh my God, my ticket rail's dirty. I didn't even realize that
Yep.
because you saw a clean one. It's like, oh yeah, that's what they look like.
Yeah, you turn a blind eye to a lot of things, and it's not on purpose. It's just you get
No,
accustomed to it. Like you said, it becomes the wallpaper.
the devil's in the details.
Yep.
And I really believe that saying means that if you don't pay attention to the devil, that's how he sneaks in. And when I say the devil, I mean something that's going to ruin you.
Oh, absolutely. And it could be something as simple as we're talking about with that neurovirus. You're in a hurry as a food truck owner. You're running, into the convenience store to wash your hands, and then don't think to wash them when you get back on the food truck because hey, I washed them in the bathroom. I'm good to go. But you had to
Well,
get out
and
of the bathroom.
I guarantee you that 90% of the people listening to this are just like 90% of the people I run into. Oh, I've never had norovirus. Oh, really? You ever had the stomach flu for 24 hours where you didn't know which direction it was coming out next? Oh, yeah, that's horrible. I hate that. Yeah, that is actually norovirus. There is nothing called the stomach flu. Did you know that?
Well, it's one of those terms that becomes generic and part of our vernacular, but we really, you're right. There is no scientific, medical, I guess, medical description for, a
Yeah,
stomach
it's
flu.
fake news.
Yeah, it is. It's definitely fake news. And, the doctors contribute to that by saying, well, you got a virus. Well, which one do I have, doc?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, doctors' training when it comes to foodborne illness is minimal. My understanding of foodborne ailments will probably rival a lot of medical doctors, and not because I'm some brilliant savant. I am not. But because I study it and I pay attention to it, but it is not like, being a medical doctor obviously isn't the mainstay of my profession. I'm a chef, and I
Right.
understand food and I understand the way it can affect you, but medical doctors are not very well equipped as a general rule in this direction. I'm not knocking medical doctors or anything. I'm just saying, as far as it comes to foodborne illness, it is not a very important topic during study. During study, I believe. So,
Yeah. I mean, they have so many other things that are probably far more interesting. All the real serious diseases and stuff. Who cares about
yep.
somebody with a stomach ache when I can, cure cancer or whatever?
Yeah, I don't think you're wrong. Where's the money to be made?
Yeah, exactly. It is not pumping people's stomachs to prove whether they have foodborne illness or not.
Yeah, that is an accurate statement. So,
But those foodborne illnesses have hurt a bunch of businesses over the years. I mean, Jack in the Box being one from a long time ago,
I remember that.
Chipotle very
Chipotle,
recently.
yes, that was E. coli at Chipotle, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was, and some of it was neurovirus. It depended. Um, I think well, the first time it was neurovirus because it was in like 17 different stores and it was all within a geographic area where they just weren't washing their hands essentially. And then the E. coli was much more widespread because it came from distributors. And
So
see,
gross.
it is. And in that particular case, the restaurants themselves were not at fault. The food came in contaminated and they had no way of knowing.
What a very interesting topic you just brought up, Mr. Bill. Traceability.
There you go. We'll be hearing a lot more about that in the coming years because they just passed that regulation or that act, the Traceability Act.
Well, traceability has been something that's been out there. I mean, for instance, if you're doing, well, you're in Florida, so this is definitely something. If you're selling oysters, you have to hold on to those fish tags for 90 days after service, not 90 days after you got them, 90 days after you served them, which is normally pretty close to when you get them. But if something happens and they trace back, hey, we ate these oysters at your facility and then we got sick, what were you doing to those oysters? Immediately they're going to climb right up your proverbial skirt to see what you've been up to. But when they do that and they go, well, where was it harvested? And you can hand them the shellfish stock tag and they go, oh, it was harvested from this. We've had issues from this harvest. You're good. It's not you. And that is a liability issue that would end a business.
Oh, for sure. Especially not having that traceability proof.
Yep. And the only fault you did was not keep the traceability, because as far as they know, you had somebody pull up with a bunch of ice in his truck and a bunch of oysters and was like, dude, I'll sell you oysters $1 each. Yeah. Great price.
Yeah, we see that a lot in Florida. There's people that sell shrimp on the side of the road and all that kind of stuff. And it's, to me, it's
I've seen
scary.
it. It's
Yeah.
scary. It's all get out. Yeah.
You know, you walk up to them and sometimes there'll be a bunch of ice. Sometimes it'll be floating in water. It's like that shrimp probably, if it wasn't already dead, could be swimming in that. So I don't think I want any. No thanks.
Yeah. Yeah. Some questionable practices by people that aren't being monitored,
Yep.
And that's one of the advantages, you know, regulation. It's like a double-edged sword. If somebody gets sick from an oyster I served, we can trace it back to where we got it. I'm off the hook, and that's kind of cool for regulation. The problem with regulation is it costs a lot of money. And, food truck owners especially know about regulation and, oh, you got to have this. Oh, you got to have this. Oh, this has to be set up this way. Oh, that's not the code. Left and right. And, because it's the same thing with a restaurant. The only difference with the restaurant is I don't have to worry about the engine and the wheels.
Right. And that's not
So,
a big enough difference to make me want to choose one over the other. You know, it's no matter where you go, you got something to deal with, some type of, maintenance problem, some type of issue that the other doesn't have, but they're still just as costly and still just as big a pain. So let me ask you this. Since
yeah.
you do that hospitality program, how are you personally informed of all the different recalls that we have? Because Melissa reads them every night to me. This was recalled, and so how do you all handle
Uh, well, I mean, we listen to our purveyors, because if it's a product that they have that was recalled, then that's where that direct conversation comes in.
it? Right.
If it wasn't a product held by the purveyor, then there's typically not a lot of communication. But I'm working out of a larger facility than a food truck is going to be working out of.
Right.
I've got the school, so then at that point, you're going to want to go to either the USDA website or the FDA website, which are totally connected, and you can find out any information on recalls that are going on. And I'll tell you what, the biggest recall I see, it seems to be from water supply and vegetation.
Yep.
And I honestly, I think it's because there are people out in the field defecating in the field, and then, defecating right where they're working, and then going on with their work thereafter.
I would agree with that,
And that,
because some of the things that are being listed as having like E. coli in, it's like, that's not native to that particular product. It's a vegetable. Where the heck did it get it from?
yep. And when you hear about norovirus coming in through vegetables, well, that's exactly what it had to be.
Yep. Exactly.
So there's some practices out in the field that could definitely be improved. Reputable supplier is your best move, because if it comes down to the product in which you purchased, you really need to make sure that you are nice and CYA'd on the whole thing, CYA'd on the whole thing.
Yep. 100%.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's that word we were kicking around a little bit ago, traceability. It's basically your chain of custody on that food. You got to prove you're innocent, because the health department, if somebody says, hey, I ate to that food truck and I got sick, the health department's going to come in expecting to prove you're the cause. So you got to prove your own innocence. This is
And
what I've
I've
done, how
all,
I handled the food from the time I got it till the time I gave it to them.
hmm
And if the health department is satisfied with how you handled it, then their next question is, well, where'd you get the food from?
yeah, I got from here. There's their phone number. Give them a call. Tell them I
Yep.
said hi.
And it better not be some dude on the side of the road.
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely. Uh, or go hunting. That's another big one. I've
Yep.
definitely been in a few restaurants. I'm not going to lie, where we ran the skin off the deer pretty quick and broke that sucker down. And yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
You got this same issues down here with fishermen. You know, there are a whole bunch of restaurants that will cook your catch. But
Ah,
that's scary.
yeah, I don't like that. Why do you need to bring your catch to a restaurant? Okay. Well,
Yeah,
I'm just
exactly.
cut from, yeah, you
Well,
know,
it's one of those, let's make some money because you'll have the fishing boat that'll take them out, take them wherever they take them to, and they'll catch something. And the captain will say, hey, I've got a relationship with this restaurant. He'll cook prep your fish and cook it and give you whatever else he doesn't cook for you to take home and freeze it for the low, low price of, whatever it is. So it's
right.
just one more money making venture. And I know a lot of people that do that. They catch, especially some of the smaller fishes that, are certainly legal to catch, but they're only going to feed one or two people anyway.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's not like you're getting, 5 or 6 or 10 meals out of it. You're having a good dinner. So they get that
Hey,
restaurant.
do you get lionfish in your area? Lionfish?
I've heard people talk about them, but I don't know the prevalence of them.
They're in the Caribbean a lot, and they're an invasive species. So it's one of those that they kind of give away. I had some. It was absolutely delicious. I had ceviche lionfish,
Mhm.
totally killer, and totally cheap. It was like the best thing I ate the entire time I was in the Bahamas, and it was cheap because they're like, yes, kill them, get them out of here. I'm like, geez, I could eat this all day. Yeah, I was just wondering if they had that up there. But yeah, traceability is a big part of what we're doing. Um, I'd rather pay 5 cents more a pound so that way I'm off the hook if something's wrong with what I purchased.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It is
Yeah.
no fun when the health department shows up and says, we had a complaint.
If I do what I can to create great relationships with the health department. And I don't think that people realize that the health department's job, very specifically, is to protect the tax base
Mm-hmm.
of the city in which they work in, right?
Yep.
So they really want to work with you. They're not looking to start a fight with you by coming in your back door.
Yep.
So if they come in your back door and you're super slammed and they say, "Hey, is this a good time?" Just respectfully say, "You know what? This is really a bad time. We're really rocking right now. Can you come back at such and such a time?" And for the most part, they're going to work with you
Yeah.
because remember, that is your property. You can kick them out. You don't want to,
Nope.
but you can. And you can also refuse them coming in at that time. And typically, if they're going to get in the way of your business, they'll recognize that. They can
Oh, yeah.
recognize that. And, like, hey, look, this is not the time. I got a line around the corner. Can you come back later? Sure. They're going to look around and they're going to walk out the door. So when they come back, be ready for them.
Yep.
And, whenever you want to try something new, maybe a new cooking technique, maybe you want to start doing sous vide, maybe you want to do some cryovac, which is the ROP, reduced oxygen packaging,
Right.
or the modified atmosphere packaging. Um, Talk to the health department. Hey, I want to do this stuff. Is this cool with you? And then start to find the guidelines of what they want and work with them. If you don't know, they'll give you the information. Because not only are you feeding the city's tax base, you're also part of it because they're taxing you for your sales done in town. They want your money.
They definitely
And,
want
and
your
they
money.
can't get your money if you're closed.
Nope.
No.
That is true.
So they are motivated to work with you. And I don't think people think of the health department in that light. It's just an auditory group that comes in and tells you what you're doing wrong. No. No, they're protecting their tax base. And if you think of that the whole time that you work with the health department, you'll find that you have a great relationship with them.
Oh, absolutely. You know, being a part of the Facebook group, we have, 70 some thousand members, and we always have somebody that says, I hate the health department. And then they list off bad experiences. I've been doing this since, the late 70s, and I've done it in multiple states, and I've had multiple restaurants. So there's been times when I was getting a health inspection every freaking day. And out of all of those inspections, I can only think of maybe one health inspector that I thought was, had that chip on his shoulder, a little bit arrogant, definitely was young. Out of all of them, now I've known a couple that were shady as all get out. In the
Yeah.
Virgin Islands, I had one that he never took a thermometer and put it in anything. He would come and sit in the dining room and he would hint, "Hey, Bill, I'm giving a dinner party next month and I need some baked potatoes. You wouldn't happen to have extra case, would you?" And of course, if I gave him a case of potatoes, he'd pick it up and go right on out the door. Never looked at anything. And that was consistent. They did that all the time. So when people say the health department, they're against us, they're afraid of them like they're afraid of a police officer. It's like, well, if you're afraid of a police officer, you've probably been doing stuff in the past that was going to get you arrested anyway.
Or you're living on the Virgin Islands and maybe you want to get away from it. One
There
or
you
the
go.
other.
One or the other, yeah.
One or the other. Yeah, I had when I opened up a new restaurant in Birmingham, Michigan, we we had been open for about 3 months. The place was still spick and span clean. I
Oh,
mean, the year I was there, we kept it that way. This inspector came in. I had one guy on staff, and he was my pasta guy. It was an Italian restaurant. He came in for 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, and made pasta. And we better never run out, right? Like, I mean, we can't run out of pasta
right.
because we're an Italian restaurant. So she came in during the day. I showed up just after she did, and we were talking. And I had met her before. She was training with whoever was there the first time, and I'm kind of walking her around, and we're talking about different stuff. And we walked up by what was called my chef's table, and I would perform a meal in a stadium-style seating. Man, this whole setup was out of this world. It was great. And she asked me, she said, "Well, do you wear a hat when you're up here?" I said, "No. I used to bick my head." And it was back in the day when I was bicking my head. And she said, "Well, the food code says you have to wear a hat." I said, "Actually, the food code says you have to wear a hat if you have hair, which I do not. So I'm totally compliant with the law." And you know how some women kind of have that real blonde peach fuzz kind of on their
Yeah.
face? Yeah. She had it. And, I suggested that if I had to wear a hat, maybe she should wear a beard guard.
And that's when the
So that
fight
was
started.
it. The next day, I got a phone call from my corporate chef. "Matt, you can't tell the health department lady she needs to wear a beard guard." I remember talking to him. I said, "Wayne, she's lucky I didn't strangle her. She had been here for 3 hours. She found nothing."
They're always looking for something. Let me tell you a story that I still cannot believe to this day. I worked at Slotchke's, so they sent me to Texas, to Austin, Texas, to learn how to do their specs. Okay, no big deal.
Nice.
Yeah, they put me up for way longer than they should have, and the dude's like, "You don't need to be here because once you know how to make a sandwich, you can make a sandwich anywhere." The only thing I needed to learn was how to do their bread because I'd never done bread baking before. So anyway, part of their training crew was a gentleman that was born without, I want to say, his right arm. So he had just a little teeny tiny, vestige appendage hanging there. I mean,
Right.
super tiny. Couldn't do anything with it. The guy could make a sandwich one handed. He could wrap it. Now he wasn't as fast, obviously, somebody two handed, but as a trainer, training people that aren't familiar with their system, he looked fast. And he was telling us that I have to, very first day we met him, He's putting on his glove, and he's working the glove, using his little appendage to get the glove on his hand, and he's got it on. And then he takes another glove and puts it on that. It couldn't have been more than 2 inches, just skin hanging there. He said, "I got to put this on because the health inspector will come in and expect to see me wearing two gloves." It's like me putting one on my foot because you're not using that little appendage to do anything with food service. It can't hold a utensil. You can't bend down far enough to wrap with it. So why are they making you do that? And he says, "I don't know. I didn't want to argue with her. I just said, yes, ma'am, I'll put it on." Okay. Makes no sense.
Smart kid right there. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Smart kid. He put it on. And like I said, I'd have hired him anywhere because he was great attitude and all he wanted to do was make food.
That kid's ready for marriage. Yes, dear.
Yep. Yes, dear. Exactly.
Yes, dear. My wife said to me once, she goes, you just look at me and say yes, dear, and do whatever the hell you feel like doing. I was like, yes, dear.
That's right.
I'm not going to argue with you, but
Well,
I'm
I'm
not
glad
going to do what you
Melissa
want me to
stepped out of the
do.
room so she didn't hear the secrets.
Yes, dear.
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
dear.
Whatever you say.
It's a great emoji on the phone. Yes, and then I send her a deer.
That the deer with a target on the side or just.
No, that would be me.
Oh, okay.
Point. Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, when you're married for 18, 19 years, you kind of enjoy getting shot at.
Yeah, sometimes it is fun. Definitely gets the heart rate up a little bit. Can I dodge this one? All right. We
Absolutely.
have been talking
Yeah.
about 31 minutes or so. And
That's it.
it flies right by whenever we start
Yeah, it
talking.
does.
It does.
Yeah, it does.
Well, the good thing is I still have all these questions that we can answer the next time.
Well, you said we were talking about, running proper costs and how it concerns food safety.
Yep.
Right. Well, they do run together. I mean, what happens when food's been sticking around too long? It goes bad. What happens when food isn't stored properly? It goes bad. But what happens when the food goes bad? Hopefully you're throwing it out, right? But the problem is you run into those people, oh, my food costs. Well, you're not thinking about your food costs at the right time. If you're worried about your food costs because it's gone bad, you didn't think about your food costs at the right moment.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And there are great tools out there. Like we were talking, for instance, about the ROP or the MAP, the cryovac, the modified atmosphere. It was a great tool. It is an absolutely great tool. There is a huge concern with it and the fact that you eliminate oxygen. So you eliminate anything that is going to go up against botulism or listeria because they have no competitors outside of each other in that oxygenless environment.
Right.
So it's great to go from there into the freezer because you eliminate air contact on the food. Air contact is what causes freezer burn. And it very literally is the denaturing of the protein with ice. So you're literally cooking the food with ice. It's horrible. It's disgusting. You don't want to eat it once that happens. But if you've ever seen the texture of freezer burn, you'll know I'm right.
Oh, yeah.
If you look at that texture. So
that's
doing
where the burn part comes from.
Yeah, right. Yeah. But if you go in that cryovac bag and you're keeping it cold and you get it into the freezer there afterwards, once it's in the freezer, it's almost like at a total pause, right? Mm-hmm. You shouldn't be going months with food in the freezer, but if you're selling food, you shouldn't be going months with food in the freezer, right? You're rotating through. So whether it's a Ziploc bag or you're using some type of the modified packaging, they are great for storing food into the freezer. Don't keep them in the refrigerator for more than 2 days. Mm-hmm. Unless you write a variance. And if you hear me saying, oh, write a variance, and you're like, oh my God, that sounds horrible. It's actually not so bad. Call your health department. They'll write half of it for you.
Yep. Or like we was talking
And
about earlier,
whenever,
get AI to do it.
yeah, well, well, one of the big things that you need to do is you need to verify and validate,
Hmm.
right? Whenever you're working with a plan like a HACCP plan, you definitely need to verify and validate. So validate says that there is scientific evidence that backs up the claim of what you're doing. I'm cryovacking this food so it'll last longer. Okay, there's your claim. Is there real scientific evidence or is it more dangerous? Well, it can be more dangerous because of listeria and botulism without the oxygen in there. They're both anaerobic. So they've got, you know, less competition for food at
Right.
that point. um, but it is totally safe to put it that into the freezer, and there is science that'll back that. You go to the USDA website, you go to the FDA, they'll have it all there for you, and we'll also talk about the 2 day shelf life in the refrigerator and why it's only 2 days. Cryovacking actually cuts down your shelf life in the refrigerator and makes it much more beautiful for the freezer.
Hmm.
The only time it does where you can extend shelf life with cryovacking, you need to get a variance, and probably to get that variance, which is basically the health department saying, yes, you can do this procedure that is not in line with the food code, but you can do it because of XYZ. Those have been validated, and you verify that you're doing what you're doing. So validation is a scientific backing to what you want to do. Verification is documents that show you are doing what you say you're going to do. Every day at 10 o'clock, we're going to check the temperature of the cooler. And I've got a log with every day at 10 o'clock, we check the temperature of the cooler.
Yep.
Not bad. That's verifying that you're checking. Somebody
Exactly.
else comes back behind that person, goes, yep, you've been checking every day, you're doing a really good job. So those are the two big things when you want to do different things in the kitchen that may not jive with the food code. Call the health department, tell them what you're looking to do. They will guide you all along the way.
Yep.
And then it's funny when somebody helps somebody else out. This is just human nature. They take some ownership in that. So
Yep.
they're not going to come into your business and be like, stick it to you, stick it to you, stick it to you. They're wanting to see that you're doing it, and then they're going to work with you and coach you up. And they'll do that a lot further down the line
Hmm.
than if you didn't call them ahead of time, because you're sharing in that ownership
Yep.
in the moment of the product. Yeah.
Yeah, I
So,
like that. That shows that you're being a responsible business owner because you're involving the people that are going to be basically following up on your behind. And,
mm-hmm.
like you said, all you got to do at that point is whatever they've instructed you to do and helped create that policy with you. All you got to do is do it. And then they come
Yeah.
in, they feel good. Hey, I helped that dude. So they're going to have, one less chip on their shoulder about, well, I got to find stuff wrong. Well, I've been helping
Mm-hmm.
this guy. So maybe I can go help him over here. And you've created a relationship with the health inspector that's going to benefit you for years to come.
Yep. Yeah. They're people.
Yeah,
And they're not normally very popular people, so they're happy to make friends. I know that sounds horrible, but it's true.
it is true. I mean, yeah, I tell everybody, think about it. The best job they could find was working for the government. That's the best job they could find. You need to help them. I mean,
And the
most people
government,
that,
does the government tax you on their own money that they're giving you?
yeah, you get taxed. Absolutely, you do. Now you get a whole lot of benefits on the other end, when you retire and all that, but you're paying same taxes as everybody else does.
I should work for the government.
Yeah.
No, that will never
No,
work.
I had too
No.
much fun not working for the government.
Yeah, yeah, that absolutely. And then, the other thing we were talking about perception is reality.
Hmm.
This is really honestly where food safety makes you money. My wife and I went to a new restaurant located by us, and we waited a couple months, but we definitely wanted to check it out. It's called the Jackson. It's named after Jackson Pollock, so that's kind of the theme of what's going on there. And we go there, and I don't know if you've ever seen those cornichons with the salmon in it. Thomas Keller did it. They look like little ice cream cones. If you ever look at the
Probably.
French Laundry cookbook, it's the first recipe in the book.
Okay.
It is a great recipe. That little gimmick that he did by making those little ice cream cones, they were like a savory ice cream cone with salmon
Right.
instead of ice cream. That gimmick really was a huge trend, and it's still one you see out there. You can now buy pre-made cones and make little appetizers like that. It's not the real deal, so it's not quite the same. So we go to this Jackson place, and they've got maybe like 60 seats in the joint, 60 80 seats tops, and they have a very small menu. I like small menus because they allow you to do everything from scratch, even if you have a small crew.
Yep.
Man, nothing was from scratch. They had gemelli pasta on the menu, but they bought it. They had those. They had a whole section of appetizers for those ice cream cones, but they bought them.
Wow.
So here's the food safety piece of it. We're watching the Garmager kid put together our order of these cones along with everybody else's order. Everybody's getting them. They're going out to like every table. It's really a big portion of the theme, which is stupid because it's store bought. So I don't like it right there. For a small place like that, that doesn't make sense. You know what I mean? Because they're trying
Right.
to be a higher level. And I'm watching this kid the entire time. My wife is sitting next to me. I didn't say a word to her. She leans over. She goes, "Do you think he'll ever put on a glove?" I'm like, "I'm not eating it. Not eating it." I saw the people at the window handling food at the pass. Don't handle food at the pass, which is almost sitting in the dining room with bare hands.
Yep.
Because I'm watching it. I'm just like, oh my God. And my wife, we got done with dinner, we paid, we left. She's like, "You okay?" And I go, "Why?"
Right.
Should be going on at the place. And like my wife she's like, "I saw this, I saw this, I saw this." I'm like, they're not going to be here more than a year. They just won't.
Yeah, and that happens way more frequently than it should. The casual observer just doesn't put two and two together.
I think people do more now because we see on TV when people are wearing gloves, they're either black or they're blue, and they're very
Right.
distinct.
Yeah.
When I was coming up, gloves always were either clear or skin color.
Yeah.
But now they're a jet black or this bright blue that you normally see people wearing, and it's like an indicator, like, "Hey, look, it's safe. I'm wearing gloves." Yeah, but you just walked out of the bathroom with those gloves on. You were just smoking a cigarette with those gloves on.
Yeah.
Those gloves have now become the most dangerous thing in the building. And that's it.
Absolutely.
Glove management. I worked with this Russian guy. His name was Dean. Dean was a good cook. Dean wore one pair of gloves all day long when he cooked. Dean smoked numerous times throughout the day. Dean checked in orders, so he walked around with the paper that the driver gave him, which is
Right.
fine until you realize he's still wearing the same damn gloves when he goes back to the line. And when you call him on it, be like, "Hey, Dino, why don't you swap out those gloves?" Just a thought.
Yeah. Just
Maybe
me.
not smoking in the kitchen anymore. Just a thought.
Yeah. Some
Yeah,
people
that's how long I've
just
been cooking.
you can smoke in the kitchen.
I remember seeing cigarette burns on all the cutting boards,
Yeah.
probably from cleanup where somebody would set their cigarette on the cutting board while they were mopping or something.
Yep.
Wow,
I remember those
gross.
days too.
So you know the burns, those brown cutting boards with that long ashy burn
Yeah.
on them. Yeah, you know
Oh yeah.
exactly.
Yeah. We had one of the places. It was a Hardee's. So you got this kitchen that's right next to the manager's office. So the manager said you can only smoke in the manager's office. So of course, there's an ashtray in there, and it's got like 5 million ash butts in it. You could not put more butts in. It's like, why don't y'all empty it out? We do. Well, then how in the world y'all get anything done if you're smoking that much to have that many butts in that cigarette ashtray? But yeah, I remember the servers too. Servers, you think about cooks going out back and smoking. Servers do the same thing. As soon as they got a table seated and they've taken the order and there's nothing to do for 3 or 4 minutes, they're out the back door lighting up a cigarette.
Oh, they suck. I have watched servers suck down like an entire cigarette in 10 seconds. Been
Yeah.
like, wow, wow, I would be high right now
Yeah.
if I just did that. Holy Toledo. Yeah, there was some talent on that end back in the kitchens. Yeah, it just once they stopped allowing smoke in the dining rooms in Michigan, it
Yeah.
just the culture started changing slowly. And now today, like nobody in the kitchen smokes.
Really?
Yeah, I don't see much. I quit, but I had my first heart attack when I was 39, and that's when I hung up the cigarettes.
That'll do it.
Yes, and I did say first, so I've had two.
And Melissa's had two as well, but
I
she
do not
hasn't figured
suggest
out
it.
not to smoke yet. Bill, on the other hand, doesn't smoke, doesn't drink, and hasn't had a heart attack. And
Hey,
I'm
look at that.
65. Yeah, no, boring old guy. No, my buddy daddy, Melissa just said.
You're gonna outlive us all, man.
Well, maybe. What
Absolutely.
in Florida when they started doing the ban on smoking, indoor smoking, of course that transition that I worked at Shoney's at the time. So when we greet somebody at Shoney's, you're gonna be smoking or non-smoking, what section you want to sit in. And then it went to the whole place is now non-smoking, which was good as far as somebody seating the door, but bad as a server because some of those tables were situated for the smokers to be at. That now you're putting non-smokers there, and no one would want to sit at them. Well, if I can't smoke here, I don't want to sit in those stupid tables with straight back chairs. Let me sit in a booth where it's more comfortable. So the booths became more popular. But all those servers
Yeah.
would run outside, smoke that cigarette and then come right back in. And it was just crazy that transitional period. But see, you talked about folks in Michigan kind of got off of smoking, especially the cooks. I've not seen that in Florida. You go to some of the bigger restaurants like Bonefish Grill in Destin. It's set right next to my Quiznos, and we had a common area back behind the two restaurants where we had dumpsters and that kind of thing. So we were always talking to each other. And anytime I take the trash out, there'd be 3 or 4 of their cooks, aprons and all, glove and even gloves, like we talked about, sitting there smoking a cigarette. Come on, dude. At least
Nothing
take the glove off.
nothing worse than driving behind a restaurant and seeing the entire kitchen staff
Yeah.
with like their hats and aprons and gloves on, smoking cigarettes, and you're driving by like, yeah, I'm never going there.
Yep. Absolutely.
I mean, they're out in the public eye, clearly defying food safety laws.
Yeah. And that if they're wearing gloves outside, they ain't taking them off to wash their hands when they go back in.
Well,
There's,
why would they? Their hands aren't dirty. They don't feel dirty.
yeah.
That's the downfall of gloves.
Yeah.
Your hands don't feel dirty. When you are not wearing the glove and you have moisture on your hands, they feel it could just be water, but you have this acute awareness of the fact that your hand is wet.
Yep.
And if it's dry and then it gets wet while you're cooking, you're going to be acutely aware of that as well until you keep blowing it off long enough that you're just covered in.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
One of my big things is I can't stand for stuff to be on my hands. Absolutely can't stand it.
No.
I've worked in environments where we had to do the hand wash counting. You had to wash your hands every 20 minutes and that kind of thing. So we had counters to make sure everybody's washing their hands. So we weren't wearing gloves. Yeah, I mean, we were really, really good at it, but we weren't wearing gloves. But I couldn't stand to touch the food. It's like crap. Touch the lettuce, like there's moisture. I can't stand it. So I'm having to wipe my hands constantly. And I still do to this day. I'll go through, a stack of napkins because I can't stand stuff on my face. I can't stand stuff on my hands. Picking up a wing to eat it. I can't do it. Cannot do it because it's going to leave grease.
Not if I'm working. No, I need a stack of napkins and some water. Yeah, I am not very elegant when I'm smashing wings. But who is?
No, I mean, that's true. Who would be? But the servers hate seeing me come into the restaurant because they know I'm going to ask for a whole roll of paper towels and probably use most of it.
Right.
Get one of those 500-foot brown paper towel rolls and just plop it down on the table.
Yeah, yeah, that's about where I am with that. Yeah, food safety, man. It's just one of those things that people assume.
They do. They do. And you got the people that are in food service that don't do it right. Then you got the people that are not in food service just assuming, whatever they hear. We had a food truck 2 weeks ago that was accused of uh, giving someone listeria. And I'm like,
Oh,
how do they know?
jeez.
How do they know? Because it was one of
Well,
those, the customer had written a review. So now it's online. I went to this food truck and ordered their food and got listeria. Did you go to the health department? Because that's a big deal. Because not just you getting sick, if you really truly had listeria, there's probably a whole bunch of people. We
yeah.
might want to track that down
Hmm.
and track down the source because it may not be the actual food truck. It could be
Yeah.
whatever their distributor was.
It could be your house, lady.
Yeah,
You could have given yourself listeria and not realized it.
yeah. But the question is, was it proven? And she had no proof.
That's a huge to throw out
Yeah,
a disease name out in public and point your finger at somebody and not be 100% sure.
yep.
Wow.
And he was asking me
Wow.
what to do, and I said, "Here's what you do: go under that review and just respond. Hey, can you give me the name of the doctor that diagnosed you? And
Hmm.
can you tell me what that date was so that I can go backtrack my food and inform the health department?" So now you look proactive rather than having some nitwit out there accuse you of something that is unproven or likely unproven.
You know that most foodborne illness comes from the home.
Yeah.
And if you think about it, it makes sense. Because when I go out to eat, maybe not everybody back there, but a decent chance, everybody back there has had some form of education on food safety.
Yep.
More than likely, everybody has. And definitely the person sitting next to them has, if they haven't. At home, nobody's had any of that training. You know, my company, the World Food Safety Organization, you know that company, they're on your
Right.
website for great sanitation training.
Exactly.
I'm going
The
to give
best out there.
I thank you. I'm going to give myself a hard plug here. We're not Serve Safe. Serve Safe is a brand,
Yep.
but I'm sure you will use a tissue any day of the week, whether it's Kleenex or not.
Definitely if you need
One
it for
cool,
sure.
yeah, and one cool thing about my brand, we started using it at my school. We went up 11 percentage points in our completion rate for passing our exam with our education versus the juggernaut of the industry, and that would be Serve Safe, owned by the NRA. And there are a lot of people that don't like the NRA, so I let people know Serve Safe's owned by the NRA. We are not.
And that's a great point. Food truck owners, they should not be supporting SurfSafe because, again, it's owned by the Restaurant Association, who does not like food trucks. Food trucks are competition. Heaven forbid a food truck park near them because they want you to not be near them because they're afraid of competition.
That is correct. That is correct. So, anyways, one of the things that I actually do in my food handler course, which was the reason I brought up our company, because it's one of those that takes 2 hours, and honestly, it's base food education, you know. But one of the things that I specifically point out, and I do this because my students flip out when I tell them this initially, don't wash chicken. You're not washing anything.
Right.
Not you are not putting that chicken in a better situation when you wash it. And immediately people go to it. Some people even like to add a chemical contaminant to the water. A lot of times it's bleach because we do not want to ever ingest bleach. If you put bleach on something that is not stainless steel or some other tool, don't put it in your body. And people at home will clean chicken with bleach. They'll sit there and run water over the chicken that just came out of the fridge. I have seen people handle the fridge door with a
Mhm.
chickeny hand, handle the handles to the faucet, handle the faucet themselves. But here's the part that people don't realize. Between 70 degrees and 125 degrees is the most dangerous part of the time temperature danger zone.
Right.
Water coming out of a faucet is typically about 65 to 70 degrees.
Mhm.
So if I take a chicken out of a 38-degree cooler and then I start running 70-degree water on it, I'm going to make the surface of that chicken pretty darn close to 70 degrees very fast.
Yep.
And guess where bacteria lives?
On
On
this.
the surface.
Yep.
So I've taken that chicken that has a good environment going on and now made it a great environment for bacteria to grow. Good environment for us and our health. Just switched to a great environment for bacteria to grow.
Yep.
And was I really that careful with sanitizing everything? Oh, I know my stuff. I'm on it. No, you don't know your stuff, because if you knew your stuff, you wouldn't be washing the chicken to begin with. So if you want me to believe you that you were very thorough on sanitizing everything, I will have to pass on that.
And then that'll be the same person that will eat in a restaurant or eat in a food truck either the next morning or later that day. And then if they get sick, they're blaming the food truck or the restaurant when they're the ones that started it, just like you said.
Incubation period typically starts at about 24 hours
Yep.
for most foodborne illness. So if I eat something and in 6 hours I start having symptoms of foodborne illness, it wasn't from what I ate today.
Yep.
But I'm going to blame today because that makes sense for me.
Right. Because
And
it's the most
that's
recent
how our
thing I
brains
ate.
work.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. We
Yeah.
look for
And
the
then
least
anytime,
complex answer.
absolutely. And then anytime you even think of that thing you ate earlier that day, man, it will make you violently ill because you're blaming it for why you're violently
Yeah,
ill and
exactly.
not the meal that might have actually done it to you. You know, and one thing my students say to me, they're like, so wait a minute, you put water on the chicken and you say it gets it up to 70 degrees real fast. Well, yeah, it does. And it does because of this. Water and oil transfer heat at relatively the same speed or very similar speeds, which is phenomenally faster than air will transfer heat.
Mhm.
And to test this theory out, go remove something from a 350-degree oven. You will open the oven door. You will stick your hand in the oven with a glove on or a towel, or maybe you're just crazy like me and can't feel your hands anymore, and just pull the thing out, right?
Right.
With that even being said about me, if that same thing's sitting in a 350-degree fryer, I ain't sticking my hand in that
Right.
oil, buddy, because it transfers heat
Yeah,
that
it
quickly.
does. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. So it is. It is probably the biggest misconception that I run into with home cooks. And I'll tell you what, man, they are ready to die on that hill. You
Mhm.
can sit there and talk to them about logic and say, hey, look, I'm 48. I've been doing this since I was 16. I actually own one of the 12 accredited programs in the United States of America for sanitation. And I am telling you from all my knowledge that it's not the way you want to handle chicken. And not only that, let's think of the quality. Let's get food safety out of it. You can't sear something that's wet.
Right.
Who wants a soggy chicken skin?
Not anybody on purpose, anyway.
Yeah, it's gross.
Yeah,
It's
it's
gross.
flabby and disgusting. You're right.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy. It is crazy the lack of knowledge and people don't know they don't know it. Like
Yeah,
you're going to injure yourself. You're going to be sick because of what you're doing.
yeah, yeah. It's you can do it in the blink of an eye. You can do something that will kill somebody within a blink of an eye.
Yeah.
And that's why when you run into like these classical chefs that are just total jerks and they're always super tense and anxious, well, you know, they got a lot riding on them, by the way. And when you walk into a kitchen, everybody's goofing around. It's got to turn your stomach as to, okay, what's not being paid attention to as far as food safety?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because we're not paying attention.
Right. Because we're goofing
Yeah.
off. We're
Yeah.
I call it because when you walk into a kitchen, people are usually humped over their counter doing something. But when they're standing upright, they've ceased working. There's no more sense of urgency because they're not working on what's in front of them. Like, okay, what's going on, dudes? What has distracted y'all? Are you too far in the weeds? What's going on? Because now you're not paying attention to the details.
And then the hands stop moving.
Yep.
And work stops happening. It's like, are you able to walk and chew gum? Because talking and working are kind of the same thing.
Pretty
But
much.
if you're not, then I'm going to need you to shut up because I'm
Yep.
paying you.
And paying
Yep.
you a lot to do nothing. So let's get it on.
Yeah. Yeah.
All
Pretty
right. So we
much.
started this conversation with maximizing profits through food, through safe food practices.
Safety.
Geez, I can't even read. It's right
Yes.
there in front of me.
There you go.
It's a total of 6 words. Maximizing profit through safe food practices. I think if we were going to sum it up, what would be the 3 top things you would tell somebody so that they can maximize profits and still do the food safe certification kind of things?
Buy from approved vendors. Handle your product properly. And there's a lot to that. Okay. We talked about not washing chicken. We talked about holding on to shellfish tags. We didn't talk about FIFO, first in, first out. That's another big part of it.
Yep.
Those things right there, control your product. Have good dates on there. The most important line on a date mark is U B with the date, because U is use, B is buy, and then the date. And there's a whole lot less thinking that has to go on, and people can just realize what the use by date is. It's the most important piece of information, along with the actual name of the product. Now, the only other thing you're legally required to put on there is the day you made it, which should be 6 days before the throwout date, because the 7th day in that is the day you actually made it.
Yep.
So 7 days starting today. And an easy way to think about it is, if I made it on Monday, I have to throw it out by Sunday.
Yep. It should not go into the next week.
That is correct.
Yep.
That is correct.
Those are good tips.
Those are some really big ones. Food safety is it's very involved. You need to have a good understanding, and it's not difficult. It's just involved. You got to pay attention, and you got to know what to pay attention for.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, I got to go. I have to go to this. Sorry, I had to do the car thing. We had lost internet all day at school, and now I'm sitting in the parking lot at the Motor City Casino, getting ready to go in for my chef dinner.
That's the big end thing now, is for people to do podcasts from a car.
Oh, is it?
Oh, yeah. There's a lot of people that do it. They don't talk for an hour like we have, but they will do 10 minutes in the car, and I'm like, that cannot possibly be safe. And I would imagine that if the police see you doing that, they're probably going to pull you over. So either you're green screening it, making it look like you're driving a car, or you're just taking your life in your own hands.
Yeah.
Sense either way.
Yeah, no, I'm not going to do that. But this is fun. I'm looking forward to doing this some more.
Me too.
The next time we do it, I'll be sitting comfortably at my desk, and
yeah, I'll see. You'll be out in the car again because the cable still won't be fixed. Internet's still
down. No, I'll be at my house for the next one. Normally by 8 o'clock on Mondays, I'm home. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
So,
we'll do this again in 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
Yeah. And
my man,
I will get this posted for everybody to see it, and we'll see what kind of reactions we get. And hopefully we'll have a bunch more questions for the next time.
And send me the link too, because I'm going to shoot it all over the place.
Oh, absolutely. As soon as I get it posted and live, I will send you that link.
My man. Well, I will see you in 2 weeks, sir.
Sounds good. You have a great night. Good luck tonight at your dinner and your awards, and I'll see you in 2 weeks.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Take care.
You too. Right. Bye-bye.
Bye.